Hi there, welcome back to Not Another Budget. I'm Nicole, and on this channel I'm attempting to cash budget my way out of debt and fix several years of financial misbehaviour. And if that is something that you're interested in following along with, please don't forget to like and subscribe and check out the other videos that I have on this channel. It means an awful lot that you're here watching me today, and I can't thank you enough for your views and support so far. So I'm here today. I have got a Velvetizer chocolate latte in the Rendell fungi mouse mug. Anyway, that's enough of that before I get caught up on puns. I thought that I would do a little bit of a goals reset video and an income review for you. Now, back in 2022, in December, everyone in the budgeting community, myself included, was releasing, I would say, their goals for the year. And my goals then have completely changed now. In fact, over, let's just say, 4 short months, because we're only really just into May, things have taken a real trajectory. And I think we're only like 17 or 18 weeks into the year, guys. So things have definitely changed, and what I thought would be important and what I thought I would be focusing on is completely different. And actually, before I go any further with going, here's my budget, here's what I'm doing, here are the priorities. Actually, let's just take it right back to basics and look at my core goals for the year going forward and how they've changed, what my income is looking like, certainly for the next 3 months, and how that's actually going to inform what I want to do, because things are going to be changing over the next calendar year or so. It's going to have an impact on my budget. Some are obvious, like the teaching, but other things are not so obvious, like the fact that I only have a year left in this house. And at the end of that year, there's a little bit of a molehill approaching that needs to be dealt with. So let's just dive straight into it. And I have got my budgeting planner. I made reference to the fact that I was filling in the sheets that I had created at the very start of the book, and that I would go through them in a second. So while you just very quickly peruse these, which I will break down in more detail soon, I'm going to have a quick sip of my Velvetizer because it's not good when it's cold. And go from there. So the way I've broken down my goals is that when I saw this spread, which was a pre-existing spread on Canva, I loved it. I loved the fact that it gave something that felt measurable, achievable, all of the acronyms. So in 2023, I will start training to be a teacher. That is a goal of mine that is now going to happen going forward. I have started my subject knowledge enhancement course. I've had a lot of tests, and I also have to go back and revisit my maths knowledge from 15 years ago. So anyone in the UK, any parent who is familiar with GCSE bite-sized maths or anything like that, guess what your girl is currently having to get into, and my brain is slightly hurting. I've decided that I'm going to quit fizzy drinks and alcohol. Now, I already have stock of these, so rather than just doing cold turkey and throwing them out, because that is definitely going to be a waste of money, I'm going to drink down what I have. I won't replace them or buy any more, and then once they're done, they're done. And I'm going to do the fizzy drinks and the alcohol as a way of introducing, I would say, healthy habits, which is something that I'd wanted to do back in January of this year. And it just never fell into my budget. And then other things obviously happened and took time away and my attention away from it as well. But I've essentially got a year, a year's plan that is really starting now. And I do also need to get on top of my health and get my weight and my stamina under control, particularly if I'm moving into teaching. I need to learn how to balance my time more effectively. It's slightly impacted by some of the medication that I'm on. It makes me very, very lethargic. And therefore I will sometimes take time, particularly being at home, to maybe sit on the sofa for an extra 20 minutes because I feel genuinely lethargic and tired. There is an element of chronic fatigue in there as well that is just always been there and only very recently called that and given that a label by the GP. So I do have to deal with that, and so I'm on some strong medication that can just knock me out completely. So I need to learn to balance my time more effectively. That will help with generating income, but also how I eat when how you eat when you're bored, or you spend when you're bored. All of that comes into play. So it's getting on top of that. this is my last year in my local area, and I want to visit my area and be a local tourist for as much as possible, because I, having lived in other cities and other places in the past, never really took advantage of that. And now that I know that there is this fixed deadline in place, that I'm going to be relocating away from this area as of July 2024, which is when my teacher training ends. It's not an area which is cheap to rent, not that renting is particularly cheap at all, and I would say that the jobs market is very, very hit and miss, depending on what skills, etc., that you have. And also there's, a whole country and a whole world out there for me to try and see. So I want to visit my area and be a local tourist and have, it sounds corny, nothing but good memories of this area. I moved back to this area during the pandemic, and all of that struggle and highs and lows that have followed since then, let's just enjoy this last year. I want to try and have a good house clear out. This is not only to, as I've said, generate an income, but also so that when I move, I know that whatever is in my house I want to take with me, and the things that I'm taking with me have value and add value to my life. I want to make not another budget into something more. This is something that I'm starting with, be it blogs, and I'm also going to, and I'll keep talking about it, I will do it, the free printables, the free downloads, links to useful resources, anything like that may help, and just try and build some form of community around not another budget, and the community that does exist already give you something a little bit more to plug into. And finally, I want to change my behaviours when I get emotional into something more wholesome. Now, that is very much going to be a working, practical progress. It's going to be something where actually, if I'm feeling emotional and anxious, I need to maybe clean my house and not run to Amazon or eBay or any of the platforms or things like that. If I feel like there's an overwhelming need to spend, I need to take time to check into why I'm feeling that way. And that is all easier said than done. But I am also aware that this is small steps and small behaviours, and with the help of third parties and some self-help tools that are genuinely helpful, not just a marketing, Instagram, TikTok quote, that will all hopefully come into play. Now let's take you through to why am I revisiting all of my goals? Well, I think that I should always, and you should always, review them, check in with them, change them if needed, and this is something that I'm trying to give myself grace for. This is the first month where I realised really, really quickly that doing my budget and then 3 days later realising that I'd have to do it again was completely fine. And I've had to sit there as well and acknowledge and go, I am going to go over on 2 or 3 categories. It is just a sign that actually I can't make those categories as small as I thought I would like to. So right, I've put a picture on my community post. Bowie has seen Clive, and Clive has just gone into little baby Max, the kitten's garden. That's their fence that he was on. And Max is in the garden. So I'm just looking, going, don't you dare bully the little baby cat, Clive. That's not okay. Clive is a little bit of a bully. Bowie just runs when he sees him now if he's outside. Completely lost my train of thought because I'm looking at kittens. Oh no. Right, quick sip of the Velvetizer. Hang on. So I am trying to give myself permission to change and to flex, and I've always been someone who's really rigid and gone, no, I must religiously stick to this. That's not the case, and that can't be the case, because there are some changes that are going to be coming up. I'm going to do a full, larger breakdown video on this, but I want to make reference to it here before I take you over to my income and my income changes. So I've said that I rent this house through largely because I have a guarantor, and when I rented the property, it was during the first lockdown. They had just released or lifted partially restrictions so you could go and do house viewing, so I was able to move into this property quite easily and get it quite quickly, and because I had a guarantor and I needed a guarantor Two reasons why. One was I was regarded as self-employed and I didn't have 3 years worth of accountancy references to basically verify my employment. So that was a requirement, although I was earning enough. The lack of accountancy references and 3 years worth of accounting records, not my own accounting from an actual accounting firm, that was a requirement by the letting agency, meant that I needed a guarantor, but also because my personal credit rating is horrendous. And that is because I have a debt relief order, which is a form of bankruptcy, but it's not as strict as an IVA or a bankruptcy sitting on my credit file. That was issued in November of 2018 and they stay on there for 6 years. So because that basically, and I wasn't utilising any other credit at the time, I had a couple of insurances that I was obviously sitting on that have grown since, as we have seen, and a small credit card, but that had a balance of £350. That was the limit on that credit card. There was no large credit utilisation. So my credit report would probably be sitting at, say, fair, somewhere nicely in the middle, but for the debt relief order, which basically pushes it and keeps it down in very, very poor. If anyone who's familiar with credit reports, you've kind of got the little curve, and I'm sitting here. I'm at the top of here. I just can't push up into poor or fair or good or excellent because of this debt relief order. And that comes off in November 2024, the 19th to be exact. My rental contract ends on this property on June 17th, 2024. Now, because I'm required to be at one location for the duration of my course, which ends in July, there's a strong possibility that I may be able to get a 30-day extension on that contract while everything gets sorted out. However, there is a strong unlikelihood, it's highly unlikely, I should say, that I will be able to stay in this property for another 6 months. That is because my guarantor will no longer be in the position where they can act as my guarantor. They have to be in work, not retired, and have a certain amount of income. They don't take retirees as guarantors really in the UK. They want to see a consistent annual earning. And there is no one else who I have a strong enough relationship with whose circumstances also enable them to be a guarantor for me as well. And let's not beat around the bush. My guarantor has had to pay out for me for the 3 years that I've been in the contract so far. And that will come into play. It's not like it's a guarantor on paper who doesn't have to do anything. The guarantor has had to pay money. So I am not surrounded by people who can take on that position. And because my credit rating will be still very poor for another 6 months, and because I would be a student technically, and technically unemployed because I would hopefully have a job lined up for September, that is going to make those 6 months from July to November, or June to November, if that's not quite 6 months, it's fine, very, very difficult. At the minute, renting in the UK is a mess. We have a lack of housing stock. This isn't a political partisan thing. These are just statements of facts. There is a lack of housing stock on the private rental market. There is a lack of social housing stock. The rental market is extremely competitive. I keep an eye out on what is, just out of curiosity mainly as well, on what is on offer in my local area, and I am seeing properties that for the past 3 years have consistently increased in price, and properties are being listed, and after 48 hours they are fully booked for viewings. I know of someone who the first applicant on the property failed the credit check, which would be me, so they immediately went to the second person and didn't even go down the guarantor route, and that person ended up paying £75 more a month for the property because it was a case of, well, if you don't pay for this you will lose it, and they were facing homelessness. So I am not going to be in a strong competitive position. I will have a job lined up, hopefully, as of September 2024 as a teacher, but I will not have the 3 months worth of wage slips. I would have had bursaried and student loan based income for the previous time. My credit rating does not permit me to be a strong candidate. I wouldn't pass a credit check at all. So that is an issue. And I will be lacking a guarantor. So I will need somewhere to live for at least the 6 months period. And unless I win the lottery and I don't play the lottery and therefore I don't subscribe to that is a poor man's tax, in my opinion. Something needs to be done. So I am looking at the option, and again, these are all theoreticals and these are all projections, which is why there is going to be a later video coming, but I'm putting this out here now because I value your comments. I may not be able to reply to every single one, and in fact I don't reply to every single one, but I do take a lot of it on board. And actually, if you do comment and I immediately see it because I get a notification, 9 times out of 10 I will reply or try and like it if I can. I'm looking at the possibility of, do I buy a van, convert a van, live in a van for a year? Not this coming year, but as in work on it over the next 13 months. Is that a possibility where I can pay down the debt that I do have so that becomes doable, buy something outright, and then over the course of, say, January to May next year, do a van conversion and live out of that for a year, with the prospect of saving money, cutting down the bills that I have, riding out that bad credit period, and hoping that whatever goes on with the housing market in terms of private rentals or house prices or anything like that just dies down a little bit. More and more private landlords are selling up, and there's not enough new homes on the market that people are turning into houses, basically, to rent. It's a big bit of a mess over here in the UK, and I'm sure you guys, wherever you are in the world that are watching, have your own equivalent problems. At the moment, it feels like the only option that's realistic. Moving back in with my parents is not an option. My cat does not get along with their pets at all, and there will be my parents will have the care of, in the home, of some elderly relatives. That's all I really want to say on that, but that's not really going to be viable. That home will not accommodate everyone. And couch surfing and going into a house of multiple occupancy, they can be as expensive now as rentals. And I've had the luxury of my own space, albeit a 2-bedroom house with garden, garage, conservatory and 2 bathrooms, for 4 years. And I would actually, even if it was a van, but if it was mine, it would be mine. So I need to look at financially, how do I make these numbers work? Can I make these numbers work? It's something I would only really want to do if I had paid off the vast majority of my debt and say I was down to like the last £1,000, £1,500. It is not something that I'm going to practically act on in terms of any purchasing or anything like that before January of 2024. But what that does give me is a little bit of a window to work out what I can do and what I need to do. I need to see what the requirements are in terms of on my time when I am training to be a teacher. It may be that I look at a couple of evening jobs, or I look at maybe an evening job that's 2 or 3 evenings a week, if that's what's required to get me over the line, if the money that I have coming in is not enough. I'm waiting on confirmation of my placements, where I will actually, what schools I'll be teaching in, because that will inform how much travelling that I need to do and how much I need to take out of that. And being realistic, I'm probably going to have to use some of the first student loan maintenance loan payment to replace my laptop and get an external hard drive and a printer that is actually going to work properly, because those are going to be essential tools of the trade. And currently mine is like, I am crossing all fingers and thumbs and gritting all the teeth and hoping it just sees me through the training that I've got now. It is struggling a fair amount. So that is something that I'm going to have to replace and do off the off. I don't think I can avoid that. And it is also why I have cut down on all sinking fund savings. Christmas has been paused, birthdays have been paused, the little miscellaneous penny and savings challenges, I need to give them a job. I'm not being very good at that. And I'm also trying to think sensibly about the fact that I have to do my involvement with the Duke of Edinburgh award scheme. That gives me the experience that they've asked for with young people, but equally a mouse has eaten through my bag and my sleeping bag, and I need to look and see what I can do about that, which is why in this month's budget there is an allowance for that, for me to replace that kit. In fairness, I've owned that sleeping bag for 13 years, so I don't just buy kit for the sake of it. So things like that are all coming into play. Let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are, good or bad. Let's just open this up to a discussion. What are your thoughts? What would you do if you were in my situation where moving home or moving in with a family member was not an option? You were going to be unlikely to pass the credit checking requirements, and you would not have the requested wage earning history verification, because they want to see 3 months worth of pay slips, that would allow you to do that. And also I don't have the money to buy. So that's not on the table. So let me know what you would do in that situation. Am I completely pie in the sky and being a dreamer? Let's just wait for the train to go past. I'm certainly not attracted by like the glorious Instagram pictures of waking up on a beach. That sounds atrocious. I can't stand the beach. So I'm definitely not drawn to that glamorous lifestyle. It's purely a case of, is there somewhere that is mine that I can lay my head for a year, maybe 2, and get some money behind me? Because I do feel like, being that I'm 31, I feel like I am behind others. I feel like I'm behind my peers. I am child free by choice. I am single by choice. So that's not what I mean. But when I look at friends who are on maybe their second or third home, or buying their second or third car, or they've got another promotion, or even the jetting off on holiday number 1100, like, I feel like I'm very behind my peers, and that is largely impacted by choices that I have made, and I don't actually regret any of my choices. They have all given me information and data, and the mistakes that I have made, I treasure my mistakes actually, and place huge value in them, because they make me a better human going forward, and they give me knowledge that I wouldn't have gotten elsewhere. So I'm just going to very quickly take you through my income pages and what my income is now looking like for this period. I have got another one of these for the third quarter of the month of the year. So this is Q2 based earnings, and I've just realised the green is not very clear. So let's see if I can zoom in. Oh no, that's way too much. Way. It's not bad paper grain, actually. Okay. So these are in no particular order. It's just as and how I move around the screen. Stop shaking. So these are all things that I can do, or things that are currently in place that are contributing to my income. So these are things that I can make and craft that will require very little outlay from myself. Now, face masks may have had their day. Goodness knows I got a good 6 months worth of income when face masks were compulsory in that June-July 2020 period in the UK. I certainly have supplies and tools left. I can make some more. Tote bags, costumes, just literally costumes, wire wrap jewellery, purses and wallets, and commission pieces. These are all things that I can make as and when someone needs them, but the income from that is inconsistent and largely dependent on my own time, and that is something I need to review further. I then have other, and this is all miscellaneous. So I have, for now, some universal credit income. Just a little bit of update. I've got another 3 days worth of filming in the entirety of May, just to finish off the film that we did in March, and that's coming up as well. So the odd days filming here or there I can do. Surveys and market research from home, the subject knowledge enhancement bursary, which is while I'm doing my short course, any earnings that I get from YouTube, and then I will have the teacher training bursary as well, and that's from September onwards. Destashing, so Vinted, eBay marketplaces and car boot earnings. That I've gone through that in quite a lot of detail already. And then future developments, and this is something that I will draw on later. There's obviously the opportunity to develop Not Another Budget, and the monetization options obviously there come through things like blogging, affiliate links, tools in terms of physical printable things like that, envelopes, savings challenges. I don't know, like whether I choose to go down this route or not is a different discussion. I did always say that this was never going to be a channel where I would actively try and sell you products. However, I would also be a little bit of a fool, given my current income circumstances being so inconsistent, if I completely closed myself off to this option. For now, I'm focusing on just destashing first, and getting some space back before I dive into anything else. And then obviously from September onwards, I have my teaching, which is a salaried bursary income while training. I say salaried, it just means that the bursary is going to pay out X a month every month for 10 months. And then I also end up with the maintenance loan as well. What might be useful, it's all right, Clive's dad has just come out and got him because he's being a nuisance. What might actually be useful is when I do the follow-up video to what I plan on doing, if it's realistic, I might actually do a video where let me just have a look, if I just get a scrap bit of paper, maybe go, I've got X income coming in here, then I've got the same again in here, then I've got Y income coming in monthly, and that's going to run all. So I might just sit down and do something like that with you guys. I might do that as a live, actually. Let me know, because then actually if you guys do want to chip in and contribute to that, and discuss and look at possible dates and things, that might be something that's worth doing. If I do decide to do that, I'll give you guys plenty of notice, and do let me know if there is a time that suits you best. I know I have viewers in America who, if I put a video out at 10 o'clock at night, like they're going, yes, it's our morning, we can watch this with our coffee. And then I have UK viewers as well who I just, watch whenever the time I upload is. So I'd like to get a good, even if it's like a late one, say it was like a 9 p.m. in the evening UK time, or a 9:30 in the evening, let me know. It might be quite interesting to do that live, and then I can try and engage with you guys as well. So that is what is currently going on. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, I look forward to reading your comments. Actually, please let me know what your thoughts are down below. Just be nice. If it's not something that you would do and you're completely opposed to it, that's completely fine, but just say that nicely. Don't be a cowbag, basically. So yeah, just let me know. I'm gonna love you and leave you now and go deal with Bowie, who's still having issues over Clive, basically. He's having some problems. So I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye.